Okay, this is Hideous Z. We're doing a replay analysis looking at Quinn top versus Vladimir, and this is in gold 5. Okay. So Quinn versus Vladimir is a pretty, or can be a pretty tricky lane. It is a good one to run Ignite into if you can. Simply because it is so strong versus him. Oh, you forgot to proc your first passive there. If you don't run Ignite, then your kill pressure is significantly lessened. And you really just kind of end up needing to focus on farm unless he makes big mistakes kind of like that. Because pretty much after level 3, he will be able to outtrade you. Unless he, and like I say, unless he just really screws up. Like if you had Ignite, you'd have kill pressure right now. You could vault in and kill him. Nice, there you go. Okay, so that's a good example of how you don't actually need Ignite a lot of the time as Quinn to actually win lanes. But to be fair, that kind of kill won't always be possible because he handed it to you through just not really respecting your damage potential. So, okay, so far you're playing this pretty well. You have missed quite a bit of CS already though. So this is the 4th wave. So right now, there's potentially been 19 CS available in the lane. So you've missed more than a full wave of CS already. So getting a kill makes up for that gold. But let's just look back here for a little bit and just see how maybe some of this went down, if there's a way that you could be even further ahead right now. Okay, so here he comes to lane. You choose to CS over trading. That's really smart. You want to be pushing for level 2 because you have a pretty powerful level 2 power spike. You're playing this maybe a little bit passively, but that's okay. Because you do need to respect his cooldowns. Okay, you missed one there. And there's where you missed your passive, so always, you got to kind of have half an eye on your passive indicator, your countdown, kind of next to your abilities, so you know when it's coming up, so that you don't accidentally do things like that, because that would have been a significantly larger chunk of damage onto him. Okay, you got that one. Got that one. There you go. That's a free harass, but you end up missing that CS. And you cancel your auto there, miss that. And then you get that one. So right now you've got, you've missed 3 total, which isn't the end of the world. There you miss another one. Missed that one, missed that one. Here's where you miss all your CS, is because you've got all this. And then, admittedly, CSing in a big wave like this is tricky because all your minions are attacking really fast and it's hard to time it. So that's where you miss most of them. So that's not the end of the world, but that's just something you can practice and try to hone in that skill there. Because yeah, if you were closer to 15 CS, then that's 4 minions, that's like 100 gold or 80 gold anyway. That's an extra couple of potions or an extra ward. You could be coming back to lane with a green ward and a pink ward, for example, and that's just that it's every little advantage like that that you take to continue to snowball things. As soon as Vlad hits Hextech Revolver, you need to significantly up your respect of him, but it looks like he's maybe building Seeker's Arm Guard first. And so you're just going to continue to prioritize CS right now. No. Okay, so you've missed 2, 3. And you bought a Vamp Scepter, that's fine. The other good option versus Vlad is to go Hex Drinker. Especially if you've bought potions. The Vamp Scepter is nice, but it's not like super critical, and the Hex Drinker is really strong versus AP casters. So that could be pretty powerful since you already had an advantage on him. You've got a CS and a kill advantage on him. You can kind of cement that by buying a little bit, by buying a defensive item or a pseudo defensive item like Hex Drinker is. You can kind of do a similar thing with Phage versus tank versus AD lanes. So one of the bugs that'll happen with Quinn that's left in the game still is, I'm not sure if that would have procced it or not, or triggered it or not, but if you like vault off with somebody like that, so if it's Vlad or Fizz or Echo or anybody that has an untargetable ability, if you vault off of them and then you auto them, and while the auto is in the air, they go untargetable, it cancels the auto because obviously they're untargetable, but the mark stays. But because you fired a passive, a passive auto, the game is like, well, you already fired that empowered auto, and so just because it didn't hit the target or consume the mark, that's not my problem. So your next auto will just be a normal auto. So just be aware of that. It's not always a game-breaking thing, but it can throw you off sometimes if you're not like aware that it happens. So right now, I'm not sure if when he came up out of that pool, you didn't end up having the range to hit him anyway, but I'm not sure if it would have been a normal auto or a passive auto. You missed that. Okay. I would always err on putting the ward in here. That one expired right as you walk down, so refresh this. This is much more likely where the jungler is going to come through, because if he's clearing his jungle, he's either going to come through here, or he's going to come through here. And even if he does come up through here, if you're pushed up, he's likely going to be hugging this side of the river, as opposed to walking through the brush. It's possible, but there's a chance that he will. And so you definitely catch him coming through here, you definitely catch him coming through here, and you might even catch him coming up through here with a ward appropriately placed in the brush right here. This only catches people in the river. And since you're Quinn and you're often going to be pushed up because you're aggressive and this Vladimir isn't doing a good job of stopping you, you're probably going to be spending a lot of time in this chunk of the map, and this ward is going to get you a lot more mileage. Okay. Okay, so far so good. You're winning this lane really nicely because you have a strong CS lead. You don't want to wait till he pools. He's been very predictable about his pools. So you have the cooldown on his pools in your head, and you can predict when he's going to do it because he's done it at the same sort of moment. And he's dead right now. You should be ulting him. He's 100% dead. His pool is on cooldown. You should have ulted him. Let's look at this. Okay, so here you are, you're farming, and you see an opportunity. So you hit him with your passive, that's good. Your passive is coming up off a cooldown. He gets marked by it again. This is your moment. You go in, you vault, he pools. Okay, well, whatever. He canceled the auto. That might have been a kill if he hadn't pooled, but he's been very predictable about his pools. He pools when you vault off of him. So since you should have a pretty good idea of what the cooldown is, you can kind of predict that. You can kind of wait until he comes up out of his pool, hold on to your Q cooldown. Okay, and you're... Okay, now he's dead. Everything is off a cooldown right now. You should have immediately ulted, dash Q, execute, and he's toast. And you get out through here. And because you have a ward here, you know you're safe to get out through here. But now you're letting him push off the turret, you're letting him sustain back up with his abilities. Now he's a little bit further away from... And he's still dead. Yeah. Yeah, that was absolutely a kill. And now his pool is back up off cooldown. Harassed, but took a turret shot, so that's not worth it. That was a kill too if you'd vaulted. He had his pool up, so maybe not, but you could have vaulted and maybe followed him through and then flashed out. So that's 2 kills. 2 opportunities to kill him so far. That you passed up on. Oh, he's dead. Dude, kill him! Oh my gosh. When your ult is up, you have got to be looking for somebody to kill. Your ult is such a massive power spike. The execute on it is nuts. Vlad was dead. Even if you don't kill Vlad, Jace was dead. Walk down, ult like right here, gives you a massive movement speed buff. You blitz down here into mid lane and you obliterate him. He was toast, or at least he has to flash, like minimum. Or his flash was down. He has heal. So I mean, yeah, maybe he doesn't die, I guess, with heal and stuff. But he was low enough that I think he probably would have died anyway. Okay, good. That was good. You chased until you shouldn't chase anymore, and you backed off, and he missed his Tides of Blood, so that's good. You don't have to proc every passive, as long as you are using it appropriately. So what you kind of did there was you just moved up enough that he had to back off, and so you're using it almost as a zoning tool rather than as a damage tool because you didn't proc the auto. Procking the auto maybe wouldn't have been worth it there. The damage wouldn't have been big enough to like put him in lethal range, and it would have drawn a lot of minion aggro and thrown off your CSing. So it probably wouldn't have been worth it to hit him with it. But he still respects it anyway. He's dead as soon as he comes up. And you're dead too. Okay. So that's just not respecting his damage potential. With his ult and ignite, he does a lot. So let's look at this. Okay. And once you get to know these matchups, you want to start playing them more like a Predator. So you know that Vlad is going to do this. Like, it's pretty predictable that Vlad does this. I mean, the flash, ult, ignite, I mean, that's pretty bold. But you need to have a rough idea of what his damage output is. How low does he need to get you into where he's lethal? Does he have his pool up? Can you really burst him down quite that fast? You vaulted him. Ulting right there is maybe a little bit risky because, I mean, if you were able to chase him down, you probably could have executed him. But there wouldn't have been really any harm in just holding off until your vault was back up off a cooldown. He either would have left, which is fine at that point. If he leaves, that's okay. You're able to force it into the turret and build up your CS lead, that's fine. It's not the best case scenario, but it's fine. And since you don't realize the fact that you're actually within lethal range here, you don't respect his damage output enough, he's able to get in there and do his Vlad combo and murder you. And you go 1 for 1, so he suicides. He knows he was probably dead either way. So he does suicide, but after you yeah, I mean that's just hard. That's a hard one to predict because after you vaulted, that's when he Qs you and that's when he flashed in. So it's hard to predict, but you might just it's just the kind of thing where playing that a little bit more conservatively and knowing that trying to bait out his pool, even just trying to bait out his pool, with your Q, encourage him to pool with your Q or something, rather than just going all in with your ult. You can potentially at least you put yourself in a position where he doesn't feel quite so confident about flashing back in on you. Okay, so now that he has Hextech and Seekers, it's going to be much harder for you to kill him. Especially since you're rushing Blade of the Ruined King, which on or not Blessing of the Ruined King. What are you rushing? You're going Bilgewater into Brutalizer maybe. Again, I probably would have gone Hex Drinker in this matchup. And then Hex Drinker into... probably honestly Hex Drinker into Bloodthirster. I'm kind of changing my thinking on Blade of the Ruined King versus Bloodthirster. But Bloodthirster would have given you... I mean, you wouldn't have it yet. But Hex Drinker you would have survived that, for one thing, with Hex Drinker. Because Vlad isn't someone that you're constantly auto-attacking and constantly poking, the sustain option of Cutlass isn't going to be paying as many dividends because you're relying much more on your bursty trades than your ability to just sustain. Nice. So, yeah, the Cutlass I don't like into this matchup. Unless he is ahead and all you need to do is just survive and you're not looking to trade at all, then Cutlass makes sense because then you're just purely looking for sustain. But if you're even or ahead, then getting something that couples some offense with some defense, like Hex Drinker does, is pretty strong. Vault, 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 vault. There you go. Good. Vault is a knock-up and a slow. So don't just use it to proc your passive. Use it for the utility as well. Okay. So he burned your flash. He burned his too, at least, so it's a flash for flash. This is a mistake. He can absolutely kill you under turret like that. Be really careful. Or it would have been a mistake to go any further. I guess I'll put it that way. You're dead. You are forgetting about Pool. You're not respecting the amount of damage he can do. You're not respecting the fact that he has Ignite. I don't even think you procced your passive before you ulted, did you? Maybe you did. Like, he makes a mistake here, but you are so low that he can one-shot you. With a Q Ignite, you're toast. So you even getting in range of his Q is really risky. Okay, at least you did proc the passive, but yeah, super dangerous. Not worth it. Because at this point now, he's starting to take the lead. He's getting pretty close. And the only reason he's starting to take the lead is because you've handed him an easy kill. If you just play that conservatively, then maybe he gets a little bit more of a CS lead on you. But he doesn't get a kill, which is worth like 3 waves of CS. So you have to give him a lot of free CS before it's worth, you know, before it's anything like giving up a free kill. Don't get baited. Careful. That was almost lethal, but still pretty dangerous. Yeah, see, you gotta be careful of that CC. You gotta be a little more subtle with your ult here. So you hit him, and I think your ult's still on cooldown. No, it's not. So if you ult right now, then maybe you get him. Your vault is on cooldown, I think, though. So that's just really dangerous. Because even if you go in and kill Jace, Thane is still here. This is still really dangerous. You don't know where Nocturne is, so that's still really dangerous. You're kind of tunneling on this right now. And you get murdered, and Caitlyn gets baited into. Okay, let's speed up here. And you guys lost a couple of turrets off of that too, so that's really unfortunate. So chasing Alistair, never a good idea. Unless you know for a fact that his team is nowhere nearby at all. And look at the situation right now. Look at the ward control that they set up around Dragon. That's intense. You guys walking into that is walking into a death trap unless all 5 of you are there and you know exactly what you're doing. But yeah, chasing Alistair, with his ult, he can survive for so long that he can make it to his team even if his team is like half a map away. Assuming they're coming toward him too. So that's really risky. So he walks you into his team, and his team gets Dragon and then wins a fight, even though they only pick up 1 kill, but they still force you back and everybody back far enough that they're able to get a lot of map pressure down and take your buffs. Okay, so that happened. I don't know if there's anything you could have done really to prevent that. Blind, 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 blind. I think she was dead if you ulted her. Yeah, ult her right now. Ult her right now. It would have been close, but she wouldn't have been able to knock you back and stun you. I think you could have killed her there. So in this game, the Blade of the Ruin King rush is kind of hurting you, because the Blade of the Ruin King is really nice if you're able to jump on a squishy target and it adds to your burst combo. Or if you're up against a health stacking tank and the passive, you can make the passive do really good work for you. So it's useful in those situations. But the raw damage of Bloodthirster is useful in situations where you're needing to spend more time poking, or where the where the attack speed just doesn't make any sense. You're just not able to make good use of it in this game. And now you finally have it, but you're behind enough in CS at this point. Like, you should have been... This is where you wanted to be at, like 11 minutes, not 22 minutes. So you're really behind in gold. You're at 6,200, Vlad's 2,000 up on you, Jace is 4,000 up on you, Nocturne is 3,000 up on you. Now, admittedly, that's not completely your fault, and even if you were CSing a lot better, it wouldn't be completely mitigated. But if you had 150 CS, if you had kept up with Vlad, right now, 150 CS, that's an extra 50. That's almost 3 kills worth of gold. Actually, that is 3 kills worth of gold. That's 900 gold. Almost. That's probably 800 to 900 gold, and that puts you... I mean, you're still behind because your team is behind, but at least you're not the weakest person. You're not the weakest person on your team because your whole team is doing bad. But at least you're not weaker than even their support is right now. You know, at least you're up with Vayne. So that's pretty rough. So this game's almost over. This is pretty straightforward, unfortunately. So overall, you played the early lane against Vlad pretty well. There were definitely a couple of things that you could have done better that I pointed out. But overall, you actually played it pretty well. I don't think you ever teleported into anything other than lane, which is really sad. Or unfortunate, I guess, that you weren't able to make use of teleport. So Ignite might have been a stronger option here, but there was at least one more time that you had lethal on Vlad that you didn't get. There was at least one time that you could have had lethal on Jace that you didn't take. And in a game like this where you're up against a Vlad and you were beating him early, and the only reason he kind of got back in the game was because of a kill or two that you kind of gave to him. And just because then, you know, as the game progressed, he was able to move around the map and you weren't, or his team was, you know, they started grouping and pushing objectives and stuff. And so that's a big part of it. But you were not able to impact the map very much this game. You didn't really teleport very much. You didn't, your team, you know, and in a game like this where both other lanes just get hammered, you know, maybe there's really nothing you could have done. Maybe not. But if you play top lane better, that makes, you know, that means Vlad is weaker. And that potentially does change the dynamic of things. If you're able to keep Vlad under your foot and then roam mid consistently and take out Jace once or twice, that potentially takes a lot of pressure off of your mid laner, off of Victor. Maybe he starts doing better. It takes, you know, it keeps Vlad from getting big. So Vlad is less big, Jace is less big, and Victor is bigger, and you're bigger. And that, you know, potentially, you're still behind if those two things happen because your bot lane loses, and Jace is probably still winning. But man, the situation's looking a lot better. It's not hopeless like it is right now. So, as Quinn especially, you got to look for ways. You do want to win your lane. Versus Vlad, you're probably not going to win the lane very hard. You can definitely beat him, but you're probably not going to just crush him because there comes a certain item point where he starts becoming really hard to deal with no matter what. And so you would have been able to beat him a lot harder if you'd gone Hexdrinker, and if you had pounced on him those one or two times that I pointed out, you would have come out of lane much stronger. And then you could have transitioned that into a much more consistent presence around the map, which potentially helps your teammates out, which in turn potentially turns the entire tide of the game around. So, yeah, like I say, there's definitely things that you can do to improve this situation. Sometimes this will happen. Every lane will lose, and there's not a whole lot you can do. It's rough. There's no reason Caitlyn should lose to Vayne. That just shouldn't happen. Jace versus Victor, that's a rough lane for Victor, I think. The biggest reason was that I think Nocturne had a lot more presence than Sejuani. So, and there's not a lot you can do about that either. But I mean, but the thing you can do actually is if you are consistently beating Vladimir. This is another just way that you can potentially impact the map. So if you are consistently beating Vladimir, and he is, you know, he's not, and you're not giving him free kills, and you're consistently keeping his lane pressured, and you bought a Hexdrinker, so it's harder for him to do anything to you. If you are able to do that and consistently pressure him early in the game, that means Nocturne is more likely to be forced to come up here. And since you're going to be warding appropriately, he's not going to have much to do. Maybe he ults you, but even a Vladimir, or even a Nocturne ult isn't that big of a deal for Quinn. You can get out of a Nocturne ult if you time your vault right, and especially if you have flash. But if you draw Nocturne up to your lane consistently because of how hard you're pressuring Vladimir and how hard of time he is having actually doing anything to you, that draws that Nocturne pressure up to you, which draws it off of Victor or your bot lane. And so then they're having an easier time playing their lanes, and then you couple that with the fact that you're not giving kills to Vlad, so he's further behind, and you're roaming, and so you're further ahead, and Jace is further behind, and Victor's further ahead, and then bam, you've got an even game on your hands. And that's kind of how you win games as Quinn. Is you try to draw jungle pressure, and you ward appropriately so that you're not just giving away kills. You play very intelligently so that you're bullying your lane opponent, but you're not giving them an opportunity to bully you back as hard, or certainly to kill you. You need to be very aware of Vladimir's power level so that you're not putting yourself in positions where he can kill you where you're not aware of it. And you need to look to impact the map, especially if you have teleport. You gotta be looking for times when you can teleport around the map and make plays. You gotta do it. You gotta look for it early if you have to. Look for it as soon as you hit 6. You gotta look for something to kill. Your ult is an incredible execution tool. You gotta look for something to kill. Look for a roam. Look for a teleport. Look for an execution. Look for something. Get something done. The only time you really roamed around the map was when you came down to this fight, and it didn't really work out. So. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. There's definitely some things you can do to improve the outcomes of games like this. And yeah, I hope maybe I can take a look at one of your games in the future and see how you've had a chance to implement some of that. So, cool. Thanks for a chance to look at this game. I hope it's helpful. Best of luck.